If Overwatch 2 is a couple new maps and some heroes,
I will be pretty alright with it, actually. I played the heck out of Overwatch 2 beta, and honestly, checking other people's opinions after a good couple weeks of playing it, I was just always so surprised. You scroll through Reddit during the beta, which I guess the start of that sentence is already a mistake, scrolling through Reddit, but I go and I'm like, not even stopping at like disagreeing with, but just completely perplexed at just the like weird inverse reception that it got. The community is divided, and I don't think that they actually know that. And I'm not talking people who liked the beta versus people who didn't. I'm talking just the people who have serious, genuine critiques of it are just these two completely conflicting sides, actually. On one hand, you have a bunch of people who are like, oh, this is just Overwatch 1.5. Well, blah, they didn't change anything. Overwatch 1.5. But on the other hand, you have people complaining about the changes. So which is it? Is it the same? Is there no changes, or are there changes we're complaining about? That's right. Can't have both. You gotta choose. Did this game change, or did it not? Which one are we complaining about? Which perhaps is maybe a little bit of a hypocritical thing for me to lead with, because while you guys can't have both, I can. One of the first conversations I had about Overwatch 2 was with Stratos, and this was before the beta release. And he asked me the stupidest, most dumb question I've ever heard, which was, instead of making Overwatch 2, why don't they just fix Overwatch 1? Now, obviously this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, so I had to kind of educate him. Essentially what you can do by calling it Overwatch 2 is allow the developers to take these big risks, make these huge fundamental changes with the game, and you're justified in doing that because you put a 2 in the title, and that means different thing. And he was like, oh, okay, I guess they're gonna be doing something really big then. Alright, here we go for the Overwatch 2 speedrun. Time starts now. And done. Yes, it is true that the game probably doesn't deserve to be called Overwatch 2. If they continued to work on Overwatch 1 and released all these changes gradually, rather than all at once, it probably still would be called Overwatch 1. I had such a hard time keeping up with Overwatch over the past couple of years. I went from playing the game like a couple times a week to just once or twice a month, and I couldn't really figure out why. That's why. Well, there's certain things deep inside my gamer heart that I do kind of wish were just completely overhauled with this new sequel title. I can't help but look at the game as it is, and kind of just enjoy how little has changed. I do think a lot of people were a little disappointed that we didn't get the TF Classic to TF2 change, which was pretty drastic. But the good news is we did get like a Doom to Doom Eternal change, where it's essentially the same game, but just more of the cool things. So flipping over to team changes. Dunkey starts his video saying that they didn't do anything. And then, I don't know, maybe this was the joke, started to name a bunch of the changes that they did. Let's sit down together and see what he gets right.
The queue times here are horrendous.
I experienced much better queue times after the first couple days. I don't know if you or anyone else that's complaining about the queue times actually did as well, but I generally don't complain if it takes me less time to get into a game than it would queuing up for League of Legends.
And the nighttime maps are daytime now. That's it.
A lot of people have these really stupid bandwagoning opinions. I'm sorry, these conveniently bandwagoning opinions. They say, oh, just your new Overwatch, all they did was change the nighttime and they put the filter over it. It takes about 1 millisecond of research to find out that that was just a test, like, you know, maybe what a beta is supposed to do. All the maps are going to have completely changing day-night cycles, which I think is going to be a really cool change for making it seem like a real Overwatch world, you know? I'd also heard that there's going to be weather effects, but I am not confident in that. I assume that might take another millisecond of research.
The biggest change is switching from 6v6 to 5v5. There are some upsides to this idea.
Ever since I started playing Paladins, I've been saying Overwatch should go to 5v5, and that is years ago. That's before Overwatch 2 was even announced, even thought of. This is a change I think so few people are appreciating. Most of my time spent in Overwatch 1 now is only when the 3v3 mode is on. That's because in Overwatch 6v6 mode, you have a big jumbled mess of red and particle effects and people shouting their ultimates, and it is impossible to keep up with. The chaos and clutter on your screen, combined with the feeling that anything that you do in the game might not matter because of just the amount of things that are happening in the game, not to mention dying from Hanzo or Junkrat spam from fuck knows where, was one of the big turnoffs of Overwatch for me. It's why utterly mediocre games like Valorant are so big right now, because getting a single kill in that game can completely shift everything. Getting 2 or 3 kills in Overwatch 1 means that your tank and one of your healers is off somewhere bumfuck nowhere chasing one guy down who has some self-healing ability, and you're just never gonna see him again. And they'll never see the point again. And there is no point again to anything. Tanks are overpowered right now in Overwatch 2, and that is a very good thing. Not only does this like centralize the whole focus of the game as far as who you're supporting, who you're flanking around, who you're timing things with, playing tank is also hilariously fun. Tank is kind of like getting the Jedi in the Battlefront series, or getting the crits, the purple crits thing in Quake or Unreal Tournament or whatever. You feel like the guy. There's of course pros and cons with this. One of the pros being that getting a pick on a tank is huge, especially if your tank's alive. The con is your tank needs to be alive, which means you need to have someone who's not a fucking moron playing that position.
All of these heroes were designed for a 6v6 game. Suddenly changing it to 5v5 without making fundamental changes feels like one of those player-made custom modes.
A good thing there's not like 20-30 minute videos out there documenting all of the changes in just this phase of the beta. Also, the custom modes are more fun. What are you talking about?
There's the new hero, Sojourn 72.
Sojourn's actually a lot of fun to play. She's got this rifle that's hit scan, and then it charges up the meter, and then you fire a projectile out of your gun, kind of like Soldier. But it's a lot more interactive and... I guess, to be honest, I don't know how to explain it. She's got a lot of abilities very similar to Soldier, but they are very different heroes. I guess one thing I do know how to explain is that we have finally another hero that actually has vertical capabilities. Tactical can also force teams to kind of move around and not be as stagnant in one position. Doomfist takes some getting used to, but honestly, him being converted to a tank, which is another thing that I wish I had video evidence of me saying, because I definitely said that a long ass time ago, very good idea. Can't get one shot by the fist anymore on full health, but having more health and more ability to stay in the fight longer makes Doomfist feel like what he was designed to do in the first place, which is be like a fighter character inside of a shooting game.
McCree can't stun, so his right click does nothing now.
McCree's grenade is probably... It is the one thing I would change about Overwatch 2. That thing's busted. I don't know what he's on about here. Unless that's the joke.
Mei can't freeze people.
I'm very excited about the amount of people that are underestimating Mei because they can't freeze you, stand still, and then right-click your head. If you were good at Mei, you didn't rely on that as a crutch, so the changes to Mei are just straight up a buff. To people that weren't good as Mei, and would just get cheap kills by freezing you, they're gonna be up a creek with a... Up a creek without a paddle. You don't... Creeks are super shallow. Why would you need a paddle to get through a creek? So perhaps this is a good time to go over some changes he didn't go over, which was now that every healer has a little passive healing effect, kind of like Mercy does, which is an incredible quality of life change for healers. Not necessarily a buff, but it can definitely cause you to rethink the way that you use certain abilities. Like, as Ana, you're no longer reliant on your own grenades to heal yourself. Instead, you can kind of play a little bit more defensive, heal back a little bit, and then keep using that on your allies. However, even with this buff, it seems like one of the main complaints of Overwatch 2 beta was a bunch of support mains complaining about feeling fragile. I don't get it. I have a theory that all of these people were saying these things because healer had like a 2-minute max queue time, whereas tank and DPS had like 4 or 5 minutes, and so a bunch of people that had never played healer before were just all of a sudden playing healer, unable to deal with things. People who know how to play support, don't worry, you're still good. Something they did add to the beta, I think after Dunkey made his video, was the open queue. And as an avid open queue person, it's actually really bad. If you have more than one tank in a 5v5, the game just comes to the screeching halt where these titans have to kind of duel it out and you're just kind of left at the mercy of whatever else the fuck is happening in the game, which is usually remarkably little. Switching back over to roll queue, the queue times are bad for DPS and tank, which is what I'm assuming is what people complaining about queue times had selected 90% of the time. And even those queues went down after the first couple days. I'm assuming once Overwatch has the population in all of these servers dedicated to Overwatch 2, we're going to see that improve by a lot. Or at least back to Overwatch 1 standards, which again, still beating out League. Another thing that kind of improved after the first couple days was actually the matchmaking itself. I actually did not enjoy the beta day one just because I felt like everyone was playing it. For whatever reason, matchmaking rating didn't transfer over to the beta. Anyways, I got stomped a lot on the first day. But after I had some time to kind of learn where I belonged and had some time to learn some of the new maps, it went a lot better. Which on that point, it would be crazy to not talk about the new game mode. Overwatch 1 did nothing to improve on Team Fortress 2's payload mode, until now. Push is a phenomenal idea. I don't know how original it is, I think we've seen something like it in like super old games, but the fact that the payload goes both ways means you're revisiting parts of the map, you're constantly moving, repositioning. It's harder for enemies to bunker down because you never know where you're going to need to bunker down at, because there's not like one set choke you get through and then it's on to the next thing. It feels much more like an arena shooter in these kind of modes, which is awesome. In the course of one game, almost all sections of the map can be used, unlike when payload or control points or King of the Hill, whatever, where it's just like, here's the point, and the rest of this might as well just be backtrack. Who is over here? And to kind of drive that point home, I've experienced a lot less steamrolls on push, or at the very least if it was an imbalanced game, there's a lot more room for some back and forth. All in all, I think what I'm trying to say is, if you're not liking the sound of some of the changes of Overwatch 2, please believe me in that most of them are for the benefit of the game and they've made it a lot more fun to play. And for those of you jumping on the bandwagon of, oh, Overwatch 2 is just Overwatch 1, I mean, is that such a bad thing? Are we not straight up better off for having a game we all know and recognize? And instead of being completely like revamped, having a product that we can kind of clearly link to its original identity and enjoy and love in the same way? I don't know how the PvE is gonna be, and at this point, it's just kind of a bonus at this stage of things. Don't jump on the bandwagon, because if I am agreeing with this guy more than this guy, you know the reception of it got fruggled up somewhere.